welcome to Stamp Nation. Today is our third day for our Heated Up event, and today I'm going to talk all about the cracked glass technique. Now, the cracked glass technique generally uses what's called UT, or Ultra Thick Embossing Enamel, UTEE. And I just happen to have a couple of examples here. They do actually come in a number of colors, metallics, black of course, clear of course, and all kinds of companies have different formulas for theirs. Let's have a look a little bit about what makes UT different than just your average embossing powder. If you look closely, it's just like every other embossing powder. It is granular, so it's kind of like salt. Texture maybe obviously a little bit smaller, and it is a coarser grain. Okay, this happens to be the clear, and let me show you the black. And it too is very granular in nature. Okay, and that's what makes it a little bit different than your average embossing powder, and you'll understand why we're going to use this in a moment. Some of the supplies and tools that you're going to need for this technique include obviously your UT. You're going to need something to handle your hot, very hot end product. You're going to need a nice sticky ink like a Versamark. Mine is actually Versamark. The Dazzle kind of went out of it a long time ago. Now you can use an embossing powder tray, or you can use just a scrap piece of paper like I have here. Now let's get started. So today I'm going to use a digital image. You can use any stamped image for this at all. And we're going to work on a larger platform, and then we're going to experiment a little bit later. Okay, so this is my image here from Mo Manning. And through the magic of TV, I've already actually die cut and colored this one up. So we're going to take our Versamark pad, and we need to ink the entire surface of this particular thing, because we're going to cover this completely with our sticky ink, and then we're going to also then apply our UT over top. The Versamark acts like our glue to adhere that UT. So this is sticky, so I'm going to get rid of this and bring in a fresh one. And we're going to apply our UT rather liberally across the entire image. Do not worry about patches that don't stick. That's okay, because we can come back and fix it very easily. So we're just going to lift this up very carefully. Try not to touch the top surface. Okay, so now it looks like we have sugar on it. And like I said, there are a few spots that don't have, so you can either sprinkle it on a little bit and hope that it fits in, but it's no big deal if it doesn't. Okay, and I'm going to go get my heat tool ready, and then I'll show you what it looks like as we go here. Okay, I have preheated my heat tool up. I'm going to grab my image at one end with the tweezers, and we're going to begin applying heat. Like I said, there's areas that don't have UT. That's okay. We can come back and fix that. want you to see what it looks like just after the first coat. It looks nubbly, like orange peel. It's not smooth. Not all the areas have UD, and that's okay, because for this process, you need to apply UD a few different times. We need to actually layer them. Now this is still warm. I'm going to give it a few more seconds to cool. We are going to reapply our Versamark ink right over top our image again, and once again we're going to pour our UD over top the image. And if there's a few dry spots, that's okay. We'll solve that as we add layers. The multiple layers will sink into the low spots and make it a lot more even. And we will actually get rid of the majority of that orange peel look. All right, so let's go on with that next stage of adding our more Versamark and more UD and give it a good heat. Still very, very warm, and it will bubble to the edges, so even on the edges, still very, very hot. But if you look after our second application, not as grainy and not as orange peely as it was. It's getting flatter. More layers, the smoother it's going to be. Okay, let's do our Versamark and UT one more time and just see if we need another layer. I also wanted to show you too that UT and embossing powder are very, very forgiving. This part here where you can still see it's a little bit granulated. See, it's not quite melted. You can go in afterwards and apply more heat to that area and it will indeed melt. Okay, so I'm going to finish that up. There it is, our completed UT. You may have to do a fourth layer. It just depends on how thick you want it and how smooth you have it, and if you have any dry pockets where it needs more UT, then you can go and do that. But for this one, I'm okay with 3. And now the secret to our cracked glass technique is literally to throw it in the freezer. It's going to cool that UT down very, very quickly. You want it to be very hard for the next stage in your cracked glass technique. All right, so I'm going to go throw it in the freezer and we'll be back in a moment. All right, so our piece is returned from the freezer and it's brittle and crisp. And all you have to do to get it to crack is to bend it. That's all this technique requires. Now, if it becomes pliable and bendable again and it's not cracking for you, see, I only got cracks down here, cracks here. It needs to go back to the freezer and cool down to become brittle again, because that's what's basically going to give you the cracks in this image. Okay, so because it didn't sit in there quite long enough, I'm going to take it to the freezer. I'm going to do a few more cracks and I'll show you the finished look. So voila, our cracked glass is complete. Now, you can take this one step further. If you really like the aged and distressed look, take a dark ink and an ink applicator and rub it very generously over those cracks, especially where you want it to deepen and darken. What happens is the ink will fall into those cracks and stay to a certain extent. Now, it also depends on how open your cracks are. If you have cracks that are all the way down to the paper, you will find that you will find more ink in the crack because it's actually gone down and touched the paper. But for my card today, I think I'm just going to leave my little fella. I think he looks pretty cute. So we're going to bring in the card base and we're just going to adhere this down. So I've made my card base. It's kind of nautical to go with his little outfit there. And I'm going to put him on like such. I am going to use a very strong glue because, of course, with this being bent and warped and all that jazz, it is not flat anymore by any means. So I'm just going to bring in some score pal tape and we'll just apply that to the back in a generous manner. And we will make sure that this little guy sticks down to the front of our card by being generous with the tape. All right. I don't like having to pick tape off more than once, so I just bend it. And it comes off in one slip of the paper. And I'm just going to make sure bow is on the upper side. We're actually going to put this on a little bit of an angle for more interest. There we go. And we also have a little tag that says thinking of you. And we'll add our nice sticky back tape to it. And I don't necessarily need the string to go through the tag. That's okay by me. The string can just kind of look like it's there. I'm going to cover up that star if I can avoid it. All right. Giving that a good press. And there it is. Our cracked glass focal point. And I really love this technique for a vintage inspired or vintage themed card. It reminds me of the glass plates that your grandma might have had when you were a kid. I just love the look. So let's go and try this with a few more techniques. On to the next video.